Welcome, everybody, to the RC Air Experience, episode 33. Did I get that right? 33.
I think
I can't do it on both hands. So.
You've been struggling after 30. I think you got that right, though.
Ivan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
It's been last time you and I guess, officially met and saw each other in person was about 2 and a bit months ago, at the amazing event, Turbines and Tumbleweeds in Sweetwater, Texas. Thank you for that. That was a blast of an event, and welcome to the podcast. It's good to have you.
Thank you. Been a fan. Glad to be a part of it.
Thank you. So just for everybody that doesn't know you, tell us where you're located, what you do, how you integrate with everything, life, RC world, and that type of stuff.
Wow. So I live in kind of the beginning of West Texas, Abilene, Texas, which is actually more closely geographically. I'm closer to the geographic center of the state than I am actually West Texas, but it's kind of where West Texas is considered to start, and then it just gets more west from there. And I've been out here about 20 years. I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I guess my association with all of this is I've been flying. I learned how to build, flew, and crashed my first airplane when I was like 9 years old. That would have been about 81, 82-ish, I guess. And so I've been in the hobby for a long, long time. A lot of different disciplines. I grew up flying thermal duration and in contests. Moved into sport, a little bit of aerobatics and IMAC, a lot of scale, and currently I do a lot of jets. And my whole thing has been that if it's got two wings, I will fly the heck out of it as long as they don't spin around on top. I don't like those much.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
What is thermal duration? What is that, like slope soaring or?
No, not slope soaring. It's actual. Well, the old high starts or bungee starts or winches to. You're literally flying from one thermal to the other on flat land. I grew up in Texas, so lots of heat in the summers.
Right.
But you can fly year round thermal duration. But literally grew up flying gliders. My dad was kind of a purist and said that real pilots fly on the wing. You don't need a motor. And so I didn't own my first powered plane until I was in high school and had my own part-time job or whatever.
Wow.
And to this day, I still have, over in a cabinet over there, I still have my first glow engine that I ever purchased. It was an OS 20 FP. And it still sits over there and it still spins smooth as a top. But
nice.
Yeah. So grew up doing that, like I said, worked my way through the hobby through a lot of different disciplines and interests. I've never really stayed in one place, but really got into jets probably around 2009, 2010. And that's kind of where I've stayed ever since. And then more recently have been much more involved over the years. From time to time, you serve in your local club, and I've been president a couple of times. I'm currently president of our club here. But decided a couple of years ago that I wanted a jet event of my own, and I had kicked it around for a long time. The opportunity arose. I used some of my local connections and had some introductions made. And lo and behold, about 2 years ago, we signed an agreement with the city of Sweetwater, Texas, which is about a half hour west of here. They have a wonderful facility that was an old World War II training base for the women air service pilots. All those ladies that you hear about that ferried fighters and bombers from the factories to the bases and before they send them overseas to fight in the war. Those ladies all trained less than an hour from where I live. And
Wow.
It's now a municipal airport, but they have a wonderful museum out there that pays tribute to those ladies. And it's really turned into a great flying site. The event has grown way faster than anybody could have expected. Definitely faster than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, so last year was year 2, and
Yes,
I wasn't there for year 1, but year 2 was amazing, and I think we've got the date already penciled in for year 3. Looking forward to that.
Yeah,
So,
traditionally we are the first Saturday of October.
yeah,
And so this year we're actually going to move it a day forward. So instead of being Thursday through Sunday, we're going to go Wednesday through Saturday.
mm-hmm.
Sunday will still be a travel day for everybody.
Yeah.
But it'll give everybody a little more time to fly.
Yeah.
And so it'll actually be September 30th through October 1st or through October 3rd of 26.
Very
How
cool.
was the attendance at the event? Like, what was last year's pilot count roundabout?
So the first year was an inaugural event, and it was mostly local. Texas pilots. We had Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma was about the extent of it. We had one register from Arizona, one from Alaska. They didn't end up making the trip. And the first year we had 35 pilots. Pretty standard little local jet event. Coming into this year, it had a great reception. Everybody enjoyed the flying site. The winds were 8 to 10 straight down the runway all 3-4 days the first year, which, we traditionally have pretty stable weather patterns that time of year here in West Texas. And so with that anticipation going into this year, I was expecting, 50, 55 pilots, plus or minus. It's kind of what I had prepared for. I had a few extras laying around as far as T-shirts and mugs and, swag bags in case we got busier. But we had far surpassed the 55 mark by Thursday afternoon. Mm-hmm. And by the final tally on Saturday afternoon was 76 registered pilots from 7 states and Canada. And that's so awesome. It was an incredible turnout. Some things caught us by surprise. We weren't adequately porta pottied, which was a thing. I did go so far this past year, is to have a sponsor hotel, which set off a block of rooms at a special rate. We completely booked out that hotel. Mm-hmm. I won't say the chain's name, but it was not. I thought it's a very prominent hotel chain that usually has a very good reputation, but this one did not stand up. So we've already made arrangements to change to. I'll just go ahead and say it. This year everybody's going to go to La Quinta, but awesome. which is probably the newest property in town. It was tied with the other one. But everybody who overflowed from the first hotel and went to that hotel was very impressed. And it's actually a local owner rather than a big corporate owner. So that
nice.
The local economy some more as well.
So just for knowledge for people, because you're probably one of other than Tom Hunt, who did Neat a really long time ago, mm-hmm. You're probably the second person who's been on the show who's actually started and created an event, right? So I'd like to learn a little bit more about that. I'm sure there's people out there who are like, I want to do a flying event, and where do I start? How, you know what I mean? So it's actually kind of cool that you're on. What did you do to go from 35? Like, did you guys advertise more, or was it just word of mouth from the people who went the first year?
So, I think it was a little bit of both. So I've been a CD, and of course now AMA has the event manager title. So I've been a CD EM for a number of years now, and traditionally I'm doing a local fun fly at our home field, or I'm CDing a chopper event. I'm club president of our club, so in that respect, the CD responsibilities fall on me sometimes, even for a discipline like helicopters, where I'm not really all that involved. I think people will be surprised that I'm perfectly capable of flying a helicopter. It's just not my cup of tea. So I've been involved with that. So I know how the events run as a whole, mm-hmm. right? We've had some success generating revenue for our club in that respect. But what we ran into is that our home field here, although it's a great facility, we're at a city park. We don't have to mow. We don't have to do anything except pay for our electricity and our Wi-Fi. We have to, we're responsible for our own structures. But so in the grand scheme of things, our monthly revenues, our monthly dues, or annual dues as a club membership, I'm glad you're all both sitting down. They're $30 a year. So, I mean, and the city just requires that to fly at the field, because it's a city park, they just require AMA insurance, right? Or some sort of insurance through a, CBO or whatever. And so they're not required to join the club to fly at the field. So we can't get our club dues too high, or people just say, well, I don't need to join the club, I'll just fly at the field. So we have to balance that. And so the only way we can cover our revenues, because that doesn't cover our monthly total that we need, our annual total, those dues don't cover our operating expenses. So we have to run events. So fun flies, IMAC, chopper, whatever. I've always wanted to do a jet event, but our home field is only 400 feet long. It's beautiful concrete. It's 400 by 40. And although I fly my jets there and I can get in and out of there like it's a carrier landing, someone who's not familiar with the field I wouldn't ask somebody to come in with a big BVM F-18 and try to land on that postage stamp, you know? So we've never really been able to have that type of event. So knowing that there were a couple of fields around, we have an Air Force base on the west side of town, and we have the regional airport on the east side of town. So Abilene airspace is a little restricted. So we're lucky to be able to fly on the north side the way that we do. But the rumor mill a couple of years ago was that the city of Sweetwater, Avenger Field, had a new FBO who was a little more RC friendly. And so I followed up on that lead, which put me in contact with the city, the assistant city manager. She's not there anymore, but she passed along. We signed a 3-year memorandum of understanding to build a large regional or small national size event. And so that's how the process of actually, finding this site and doing this. But from a growth standpoint, I have been in advertising and marketing sales my entire life. So in that respect, I knew how valuable relationships were. I understood the business side of the hobby as well as, so many times, I talk to vendors, and I have one in particular. It's a friend of mine. He's actually title sponsor of Turbines and Tumbleweeds with his name is Chris Gracie. He's with HSD Jets USA, XSRC, and he and I talking. The number of times that people will contact you and say, "Hey, can you donate something for my event?" And then you graciously donate something, and then you just don't know, what does that mean? What did I get out of it? What was my ROI on whatever the expense, the hard cost on this donation was? And so knowing that these were all factors that affect people's decision-making processes, and I've been, like I said, been in sales my whole life. So it was just a matter of contacting people and saying, this is what I'm going to do, right? Here's the website that I've created. Here's our Facebook page, and then making sure that you try to follow through on all of those things. If I sign somebody on as a vendor or as a raffle sponsor, who donated things, I made sure that they got designated, one-on-one highlighted Facebook posts on the, they were listed on the website as a vendor, not just for the hobby side of the business, but even for the food trucks or the people who sponsored us with, the first year we actually got our porta potties donated,
Nice.
Nice. And we made sure that signage was available, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
We tried this past year to use a more local company. Didn't work out so well. So obviously we have to go back to the first people we had, which I should have never left to begin with. But, you live and learn. But making sure that those accolades were there so that you had the vendor support. But then, I've been going to events, since jet events since 2010, something like this. And most of the time you don't even see anything. There might be a flyer posted 3 or 4 months before, and then you might see a post, now social media has come a long way too, but the situation was that it was kind of out of sight, out of mind. And it's like, oh, what are we doing in 3 weeks? Oh yeah. Well,
It's funny that you say that, because one of the events that I'm involved with, I talk to people who are in other clubs that are like in the surrounding area, and they don't even know that event's going on. And it's like, wait a second, and they're within an hour or 2 of driving time. It's like, your club should know about this event. Like, you guys are in this area.
I took from that also that, there's so many different things that happen at different events, and every event has its own personality.
Right.
But I tried to take the things that I liked out of each event, put them into one event, also bring my own flavor to it, and then quite honestly, post about it all year long. So, throughout the summer, I guess starting probably in February of last year, the city granted us permission for year 2. City council, voted on it and gave us permission for year 2. So I post that, and I make sure that there's a dialogue about that. And then, there's not a lot going on in, March, April, May, but if I land a vendor or two, hey, I turn around, hey, BVM is gracious, Bruce is graciously approved, agreed to send us a care package for our raffle or whatever it is, and be sure and support the people who support us. I'm real big on that. And so to keep that dialogue going, and if I don't have anything going on, I might get 2 or 3 things happen in a week, but I don't post it all in the same day. right? You got to sandbag it a little bit and make sure you keep that momentum going. But then you talk about, this is what our layout's going to be, or this is what this is going to look like. And as you get closer, then it's like, okay, here's pre-registration for tents, and here's how you can, here's our hotel bookings, and use this code or scan this QR code to make sure you get $85 a night instead of $115, or whatever those things might be. That constant attention, it's just the social media game. Right.
Yeah.
So most of it's Facebook, right? I'm going to pull up the Facebook page now.
Yeah. Most of it's Facebook. I've put together a TikTok account, but you really don't get a lot of play on there unless you're really promoting it and boosting it, and it can get expensive. That one there is a reference to the RC Event Hub. Trying to think, that was a video that I happened to stumble across that I didn't even know was out there. Somebody had done a video and posted it to YouTube. So I shared it. Like I said, I bumped into that 6 weeks, 7 weeks after the event.
Nice.
Some of the stuff that we do. Like I said, it's definitely the portal for all things event related. But I've also turned it into, myself and some of the local guys that we bum around with. Hey, we're all going to go to fly at Waco this weekend, or hey, we're all going to go fly in Dallas this weekend, or hey, so-and-so went to Jets Over the Rockies this weekend, and this was their report back, et cetera, et cetera.
So it's become more of like a community page as well.
It really is. It really is. And I did that kind of with the intention, or at least the pre-planning stages of making it more of it like a channel, that you see the guys that are like, that have their own.
Connected.
So, I'm not there yet. I've got 600 and something followers or something, but it's definitely gained momentum. I've got people. I literally daily I end up with new followers, and you look at some of these people, and some of them are stateside, and some of them are Mexico, and some of them are Canada, and some of them are across the pond. So it's really kind of interesting how it's grown.
Anthony, just pull that page back up if you can, and just scroll down for a little bit. There's a neat video on there, October 25th, that actually shows the tent layout and flight line and everything perfectly, which being a pilot that attended, it's an important thing. Just keep going down.
27th. Oops, sorry. 25th.
Should be right there. Exactly. Yeah. It's a cool view of exactly what the event looks like. So.
This was one of our club members, and he did a drone flight for us.
Yeah. So just for anybody that's looking at maybe coming to the event, that row of white tents there to the left-hand side of the screen, those were all the tents that the event or Ivan set up and everything. So those were all pre-done. And then there's a little bit of space near the end there. You can see the different colored tents. That was, you go to some of the big jet events like Kentucky Jets, and there's obviously they set up massive tents and everything, but you don't generally get that when you go to an event, especially our local events here. You show up, there's nothing there. You basically pitch your own stuff. And for me, this was outstanding. Basically, we backed our trailer right up to our tent, and everything was just organized. So, it was phenomenal. The pit space was amazing, very well organized. So,
no, it looks like a cool location.
It's a beautiful flying field. So Avenger Field sits, I believe it's the highest elevation in the entire county. It definitely feels like it when you're sitting up there looking back towards the east. This is actually kind of facing southwest. But to stand there on the flight line and face out, it is literally an expanse of nothing until you get way out on the horizon and you have all the wind turbines, generating electricity. There's a technical college there behind that big World War II hangar. But beyond that, this is the airport. And, there on the end, the 3 or 4 tents, the 3 tents on the very far left, those were vendors. That was obviously Jonathan and Ben from Fly Right. Chris Hogg from Texas Warbird Models, or RC Warbird Models, sorry. And then the very one on the very end, the red tent, was Chris Gracie, HSD, XSRC. We have so much room to grow with this facility, as you could probably see in the very beginning. These row of white, brown, those were VIP tents. Those were pre-registrations. Everybody had their name on a tent, kind of like you show up at the beach and this is your cabana.
Right.
So those were the people who pre-registered. Then when you get into that multicolored stuff, that was just tent city, bolt in, strap on, buckle up, whatever, as you show up, just everybody raft in. It's almost like going to the lake and rafting up with your boat once you head this back to the north. We've got some, if you rewind the video, probably about halfway from where you're at, if I had to guess, where we get the view of the, so you can see this row in the back left, you can see that row of hangars there. We have access to that row of hangars there. We actually ended up with overflow over there.
Cool.
What we're going to do next year is that whole row of hangars there will actually be vendor row. So at the very far left, you can't see it in that photo, but at the very far left where that hangar sticks out at the end, that was registration and my tent. Then you'll have Jonathan, and then you'll have HSD, and you'll have, et cetera, et cetera. They'll actually line up down there, which will give us more pilot space on the left of this main row. But then you saw a little further, I don't know if it was further in the beginning or back towards the end, everything to the right, there's still a lot of space to grow there. So this venue could easily hold 100 to 120 pilots, I think.
So you can see that there's still a ton of space here.
Absolutely. And we didn't really have access to that space this year.
Right.
We have more space than we had last year, but we're not utilizing all that space. There is an active, because it is a full-scale facility, there is an active tenant in that far back right corner at that hangar that does require access. And we're going to work with them to see what we need to do to accommodate them, but to be able to utilize more of the space next year. But our goal next year, our anticipation next year is 100 pilots. I'd like to have 10 vendors, whether those be, manufacturers of airframes, or whether they be, turbine vendors, or, accessories, apparel. I haven't got all that figured out yet, but our goal is 100 pilots and 10 vendors, with the vendors lined up on the south side against those hangars. The flight line running south to north, that's kind of facing northwest there. And then obviously the flight line out in front.
Yeah. I know a couple of radio vendors that would probably attend. We'll talk.
Would love to have them. My take on vendors is that they just help bring in pilots.
Right.
So at least for the foreseeable future, especially if a vendor has their own tent and they have their own, they have their own cover, if you will, then I'm not intending to charge for vendor space. I'd rather have the vendor, and I'd rather forego the dollars and have the vendors than to turn around and try to make a buck off the vendors. You know what I mean?
Right. No, and that's awesome, and that's a great way to do it. Especially, I'm a vendor at a couple of different events, and that's actually a great way to do that.
One of the other things as a pilot here to bring up too is in the top left of that picture right now, that big hangar space. It's huge. There was a full-scale airplane parked in there, but that's where we were able to store our planes at night, which is amazing. Awesome. Not having to dismantle things, and having a nice solid area like that. The gate's locked at nighttime, so it's a very secure area, which is great. There's people camping on site as well too, so there's people there all the time.
What time do you shut down like the flight line at night?
Dusk, when you can't see anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally had people flying with lights on. I would not have been comfortable flying that late at night, that late in the evening. You get to that, you have that magic hour where flying is absolutely just that, magical.
Yeah.
We had people flying well past magical. So it was really, really incredible. I mean, it made for some great pictures as well. My wife is usually the photographer for the event, but I mean, anybody's welcome to come take pictures. We had lots of people that, that came out and made videos. We had a guy from one of the Dallas Fort Worth clubs come out and do his video. We had the video that we saw a quick reference of on the Facebook page that I found on YouTube. There's a guy out there, Richard Guy. He has his page, and he's a photographer and does his coffee thoughts. And he took some excellent pictures that you can find with a couple of quick clicks. And so there's just a lot of opportunity there for some really, really great photography. If you want, obviously I've got folders and folders. I'll show a couple pics that give more of a view from the flight line if you'd like.
Oh, absolutely. That's fine. John, is that your jet right there in that video? I was looking at that. I'm like hovering it Is
Yeah,
that
that's
your-
me.
That's you, right? Center,
I
right?
think that's Ivan standing right in front of it.
Oh,
Looks
yeah,
like
that's right. That's when everybody was starting to gather up for, I think, the final picture.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I think
thought,
that's when
like,
this
that
flight was
is-
taking place.
It's like that jet looks familiar.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, like I said, I'll put you in touch with a local Texas guy that would probably be great for your event. So we'll do that after the show. I'll
Yeah,
get you some
no, that would be
information.
great.
Um,
Any help that we can get. Here's photos 2025.
And Chris from HSD would be great to have on the show too. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you're friends with him, but
I'm actually, in fact, I actually spent, if you look at my phone, I was on the phone for 1 hour and 42 minutes with him earlier this morning because we just get on the phone and we just start chatting. He'll come out here and fly with me, and then I'll go out there. It's a 3-hour drive for either one of us, but
I
we
think
will we'll go out on time. So depending on the direction of the wind blowing.
Yeah, if you want, so you can share. We learned this the last episode with John
Okay.
from Two Brothers. So open up your folder
Yep.
on your computer and kind of find the pictures that you want. Make sure you're not going to share any like naughty pictures, and then you can click present screen. You never know what people have on their computers.
Sure.
You click share screen, and I'll stop sharing. So hold on. And then you can share like whatever pictures you want. It would be great to see more pics of the event. Absolutely.
I've got a pretty nice cougar here lined up. If you can see that already.
Yep. I'm gonna add you to the stage. There you go. Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
But this is the Wasp Museum in the background, which I think next year we're actually going to make. These guys were absolutely wonderful. They have the women air service pilots. They trained on 4 different aircraft. They trained in a PT-17, right, the biplane, Stearman bike. They trained in a BT-19, so fixed gear radial engine, kind of like a little brother to an AT-6 Texan. Then they trained in the AT-6, and then they got their multi-engine off of a twin. And to be honest, I don't remember the airframe, but all 4 of those airplanes are on display, operational and on display in this hangar right here, in this Wasp hangar right here. And they were kind enough to give all of our pilots a guided tour. Normally, this museum is self-guided. We got a guided tour for all of our pilots. And then on top of that, they actually donated to us a free airplane ride to raffle off in my choice of either the PT-17 or the T-6 Texan. So last year we chose the PT-17. That went to a lady out of Midland, Odessa. Her name was Annette Sellers. She won that. And so that was obviously pretty cool that it actually went to a lady as well, and then next year, I believe we're going to go ahead and do the T-6 Texan. So we'll have raffle tickets. And because of their involvement and their support, I think what we're going to do is probably take some portion of the proceeds from the event and start making an annual donation to this organization, because it's absolutely incredible, especially to be kind of out in the middle of, it sounds bad, but to be out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Here you go. That's literally the view from the flight line. You couldn't hit anything if you wanted to. You couldn't hit anything if you tried.
There's one windsock in the middle, kind of in the middle of the flying area. I think you'd be trying for years before you hit that thing. So
I might have.
What was that? That was the Horizon, the MB 339.
Yeah, that was the Horizon MB. There were a couple of those out there.
Yeah.
It's an affordable airframe. It's not overly expensive, and from what I
Here
hear,
you go. When I tell you that it was a little late to be flying, that's what I'm talking about.
That's Mark Dills. Yeah, he would get up early in the morning before the sun came up and get some flights in.
And there's the windsock. And that looks like it's close, but to be honest, that windsock's pushing a half mile away.
Absolutely.
But great photography all the way around. And like I said, that plane lit up extremely well. He would fly before the sun was up, and he'd fly after the sun was down.
Very cool.
BDXs were very heavily represented. EA in general was heavily represented. But Pablo's just down the road in Dallas anyway. So there's a lot of those planes around for sure. That's that'll give you kind of an idea of just how wide open that whole facility is. It's just blue skies. The days that we had some scattered clouds were obviously make for better pictures. It gives you a point of reference.
Right.
But the nice thing about it is there's one guy, he wasn't there this year. The first year, a pilot out of Lubbock, I think he's actually closer to Waco now. I think he relocated. Derek Martin. I don't know if you guys know him or not. He has a BVM King Cat that I think is just grossly overpowered. And he hot laps that thing he turns it on a wingtip and just pulls. And it never gets, when he's doing that, it's never more than 15, 20 feet off the ground. And it's just one hot lap after another. And the first year we gave away some tongue-in-cheek prizes. I think we gave away one that was called Speed Merchant, which went to the guy who went 199.9. And then we had one that was called High Achiever, and that was our ceiling at that event. Our NOTAM was whatever it was, 1,500 feet or whatever. And so it was, like I said, it was unofficial, and it wasn't announced ahead of time. I didn't want people trying to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the end, I was like, okay, well, the guy who actually went up and touched the heavens, that award's going to go to this guy, and then the Speed Merchant award is going to go to this guy. Yeah.
Have you had anybody burn anything in the last two events that was like catastrophic?
So the first year was pretty low key. We only had 3 incidents the first year. We had Derek Martin took an off-field landing with his King Cat, and it pulled the mains out, but he had that repaired within an afternoon or so, which wasn't bad. Then we had Chris Gracie. Funny enough, 2 airplanes doing pop tops. Chris Gracie had one of his FRP Vipers that was really all outfitted, and he was really just pushing it. His timer says you've got 1 minute left, and he goes, well, let's just go ahead and do one more pop top. And he pulls back on it hard, goes straight up, does whatever crazy stick movements he did. Well, when he did that, apparently it threw all of the fuel to the outside of the tank, and his pickup, he ended up flaming out, and he just couldn't make it, couldn't recover it, and there was no fire, but it was a total loss because it really did kind of smash in. And then we had a Picaro pop top, had a servo lockup, and that was unrecoverable. And it went in with a full tank, and it was a fire. But again, it looks like there's grass out there, but again, you're starting to get into West Texas. It's mostly gravel and rock and dirt.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at it like this, it looks like grass. But when you're looking at it from above, it's like, here's a piece of grass, here's a piece of grass. So it burnt an area about the size of a picnic table. I mean, there just wasn't anywhere for it to go. So that was year 1. Second year, obviously we had almost 3 times as many pilots, and we had almost 3 times as many incidents. We had, I will tell you though, seven airframe losses. 5 of them were pilot error. I'm just going to say that they're pilot error. 2 of them were actually equipment. So we had a guy lose a big BVM F-15 due to a flame out while he was low and going around. He just couldn't make it back.
Not enough airspeed.
And then we had a BVM F-16 that very accomplished pilot, incredible scale builder actually from scratch. But he had his F-16, I think, was having some gyro problems. He was fighting it from the word go. The minute he took off, he was fighting it, and it just didn't make it back around. The other 5 were, bad decisions. We had a big BVM F-16 that took a really hard landing. I don't think they checked it out well enough before they sent it back up, and on its next flight, it had a wing separate, and so that one went in. That was our only fire of the weekend. We had a couple of MB339s, a Horizon. There were 2 foam versions. I'm not sure who the foam version of the MB339 was, but there were 2 foam ones that went in.
I think Aerofoam makes the foam version of it. It's supposed to be
in the tricolor scheme. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so.
So I think there were a couple of those. If you we've got so much room to land. We fly off of a giant taxiway on the side of the tarmac, and so the amount of space that you have. I'm used to flying off a 400-foot runway. If I'm not 3-4 feet over the threshold when I come in, I got to go around.
Yeah.
And so, you're landing on target. I am on the ground and usually stopped by the time I'm, show center and right in front of myself. Whereas a lot of these guys, they're floating by at 70 mile an hour and 4 feet off the ground as they pass show center because they've got all this room that they don't have to worry about, And so sometimes I think that played a part with some of the less experienced pilots. You're at a new place, which you think that you're so wide open, you've got everything that what can go wrong. But what happens is you quit paying attention to little things. You don't have visual cues to tell you this is when I need to turn onto base. This is where I need to turn on the final. All those things that you see in your periphery when you're flying at your home field. There's not a lot of landmarks out there. It does. If you're looking this way, it looks the same as if you're looking this way. It's just a different set of windmills,
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes, on a couple of approaches, I'd say most of the incidents were always on a little bit of pilot-induced oscillation when they came in, not knowing their speeds and their waypoints and stuff like this. But nothing that was too crazy. Nothing that was, nothing that would endanger the event, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I believe Aerofoam does make the MB339, and it's 105 millimeter EDF or turbine conversion.
Yep, that's probably what those were. I know there were 2 of those that went in.
Are you starting to see more of those foam conversions?
So the foam conversions I see the most of, and of course, they became so popular that either there's a kit out there to convert them, or the manufacturer's now doing it, on their own.
Right.
I see a lot of the Aerofoam in the F-22.
Mhm.
That was the first time I'd seen the MB339 in a foam. Of course, like I said, I've got a good relationship with Chris Gracie. HSD is primarily foam, for the most part.
Right.
So, I've got a lot of familiarity with them. I've owned their 16 and their L39, both of which are great flying airplanes, and they're easy to throw in the car and go somewhere. You don't have to get out the trailer, that type of deal. And of course, that E-Flight, the 90 millimeter Viper, isn't offered as a turbine, but I mean, there's kits out there to move, and those things just move. I'm not big on small turbines, but that might be fun to have, because I mean, yeah. I've seen those guys just pull on them, and they don't seem to come apart. So
Yeah, they're well built.
Yeah, pretty impressed with that. I mean, it's a 90 millimeter, so it's got some performance behind it to begin with. So you put a little Coke can turbine in it, and all of a sudden you're geared up to have an awful lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's probably going to be my route to turbine in the future.
Yeah.
Do it, Anthony. Don't wait.
I know. Well, now you're making me look bad, because I've been telling you to get into FPV for years.
And it's done.
And now you did that. So now I guess I'm going to have to.
I can't do FPV. I get motion sickness. I can fly an airplane. I can be pilot in command. I can do that, and I never get sick.
So
I was really worried about that.
Yeah.
So I was really worried about that, because the only experience I had previous was we were at the field. My friend had a large drone, and or a quadcopter, whatever it is. It was like it was a big thing. Anyways, I put his goggles on, so he was flying. I had the goggles on, and I was like, oh my gosh, because I didn't have any control. But so I recently got the FPV drone from DJI, and took it out here, sat in the back of my truck, put the goggles on, brought it up, and I had a blast of a time. It was outstanding. No motion sickness issues. I think because I was behind the sticks, right?
So it's funny. I can spend an hour under goggles, flying, no problem. If I do, my son's got the Meta Quest, the Facebook goggles.
Oh yeah.
If I do those, I get motion sick within 5-10 minutes. But it's weird. Like, I could literally fly under the Like, I get to the point now where, and you'll see it. I don't know if you see it in some of my videos, but there's videos of me hand launching a plane under the goggles and walking back under the goggles on where I need to be while the plane's flying. I'm very comfortable on the goggles, but for some reason, if I do the VR goggles, I get motion sick. So it's a common thing.
I'm not sure what the difference between the two would be, but I can my Oculus story, my kid has the Oculus goggles as well. There's a World War I flying game in there, Wings of War or something. I don't know what it's called. But anyway, so I get in a Sopwith or something, and it's VR, so you can look around the cockpit, you turn around and you can see the tail, the whole deal. So I go head to head, right, with whatever it was, DR7 or something, and boom, we instantly on the brake, and we're turning and we're turning and we're turning, and I've got a little bit of altitude on him. I don't know if he's dropping or I'm climbing, but we're turning, and I'm watching, and I should preface this was we set those goggles up on a bar stool in the middle of the living room. So you're sitting on a bar stool, right? And you've got your handhelds. And so I'm banked left, I'm pulling back, and I'm looking back behind me, right? And we're just circling. Well, I'm getting around on him. And so I see him come, he's crossing underneath me at, I don't know, coming off my left quarter, right? Probably 7 o'clock, but down below, or not 9 or 10 o'clock, but down below. And I see him down there, and I decide that I'm going to go ahead and throw it hard left on the aileron, and I kick in a bunch of left rudder, and I snap in on top of him. And I just run right down through him, guns blazing, right? And he blows up, and I fly through the fireball. The problem is, at this point, I've got to throw up. It was awful. The minute I got, and of course, we're projecting this all up on the TV screen. We got a big, 75-inch TV in the living room.
Share what you're watching.
Absolutely. So everybody's like, yes, that was awesome. I am ripping the goggles off, and I literally throw myself onto the couch so I can lay down and start to breathe. Because I thought I was going to hurl all over everybody.
That's how I kind of get as well. And so
what's the difference between that and FPV then?
Yeah,
I think
because you still there's still no motion. There's still no motion for your body.
So, and I think what happens is, I think it has to do with the frame rate in the goggles versus the FPV goggles. And I think that's what it is, because that's what happened.
Interesting.
Today. Right. So like I can fly FPV, like I started out flying quadcopters and doing all the little tricks and diving through windows and flying the abandoned buildings and doing backflips and all that stuff. I can do all that stuff, no problem, under FPV goggles. If I get into motion, the Oculus, I get sick within like a couple of minutes, and it doesn't even really matter what I'm playing. And I think it has to do with the screen refresh rate on the Oculus versus the FPV goggles. I think that would be my thought why the difference is between the two. As they're similar technologies, but there is the Oculus has a different refresh rate, more like a regular computer screen, as to where the other screens really don't. You know what I mean? But that's one of the reasons why I tell people. So like I have people who want to get into FPV, and it's their first setups, and they're primarily looking to either add it to an RC car setup or add it to a plane setup. And right now, the way FPV is, like, I have a pair of goggles from Emax that are literally like $55, and I have cheap analog cameras that you can get into FPV right now for $125. You could have a brand new setup and you could be doing FPV. The other end of that spectrum is you could go digital, and it's $800. Like it's a big difference. And what I end up telling a lot of people, if this is your first time and you've never been under the hood or anything, don't go crazy, because there's a really good possibility that you can buy $800 worth of stuff and be motion sickness and have motion sickness and not be able to use it. And I've had that happen. So, my guidance to a lot of people is, if you've never done it before, if you've never had the opportunity to put somebody else's goggles on at a field and actually fly something and see if you get motion sickness and see if you can actually handle it, go the cheap route, because it's a lot easier to sell the cheaper stuff really quick, and you might lose $20-$30 instead of losing a couple hundred if you can't do it. I tell everybody, start out really cheap, do a bunch of flights, see how you like it. You might end up saying, hey, you know what? I like flying line of sight better. I get to see the plane fly by me, whatever the case may be. And then upgrade if you want to, because you can always upgrade, right? It's harder to spend a bunch of money and then downgrade. So it's a common issue, especially with us older people. Like it's crazy, right? Because like I could go, when I was younger, I used to do all kinds of roller coasters. Those gyro things that you could sit on and spin around in circles. I went to an amusement park with my kids over the summer, and I did like the tiny baby teacup thing with a younger kid, and I almost puked after that. Like,
I got a headache and my neck hurts.
right? But the young kids, they can spin a million times on their head and walk away fine without even being dizzy and not be affected by it. I just think age also plays a part of it. To be honest with you, I think that's
there's a half dozen guys at our field that have Aero Scouts, and they put FPV on Aero Scouts, and they chase each other around. They do follow my leader. I mean, they do all of that stuff. And our field on the north side of town, we have wild hogs and coyotes and deer that run through there. And I've seen those guys get on a coyote's tail before, and there'll be a pack of 3-4 coyotes running across the field, and they'll get on their tail. And those coyotes, they freak out. They don't know what to think. They're dodging and looking. And the coyotes will run into the brush. They'll run off under the brush. And because they're FPV, those guys go in right after them because they're dodging all the bullets and whatever. And I mean, they have a blast. I'd love to be a part of that, but I also don't want to embarrass myself by putting dinner all over the tarmac.
Yeah, no. I think if you tried actual FPV and not VR, you there is a difference because it's I'm sure there's a scientific explanation, and I'm not doing a good job of explaining it, but I believe it has to do with like the actual.
Well, there's got to be something, right?
Yeah, it's got to do with the actual refresh rate.
I'm sure there's a doctoral paper out there somewhere for at least the opportunity for it anyway.
Right, and I think it's more of you're actually watching like a broadcasted image versus there's an actual reason to it. So, and John, I'm happy you got into it finally. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. I've been enjoying it.
The podcast briefly, and I'm like, we'll wait and bring this up on the podcast. But if you depending on what goggles you have, this is what we're talking about. Like, you can now. I know you bought the DJI FPV drone setup. It comes with the camera and it's the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah.
But if you have the goggles, the DJI makes the FPV air units that you can actually put on planes.
Oh, very cool.
So like the Pilatus would be a great plane for you to strap a little camera to the nose. Obviously, it would be cool to do one of your turbines, but you can't fly it because of the rules. But your wife can ride along, friends at the field can ride along. We call them ride-alongs when somebody else is actually piloting, and then there's somebody who's doing the FPV. That's called a ride-along, basically.
There's a fancy FPV setup. Who's the guy that did that on the FTL F-16?
Yes, there's a guy on YouTube who did that. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, and he's gimbaled and everything. I mean, he can look around the cockpit, and he's. I mean, props to him. I'd probably auger in an $8,000 jet that way.
Yeah, no, he did a lot of work to that. He 3D printed the cockpit. Like he did a lot of work. It's a beautiful setup. It's like I think
it's got a heads-up display on it too.
Yep. Yeah. He's flying like a real jet at that point. Like, listen, some of these guys, if you dive deep down the rabbit hole, there's guys who have full like control setups. They take the joysticks from the flight simulators and they hook up receivers to them, and they sit in a chair, and he's got a throttle joystick, and they're sitting in the chair with the goggles on. And they're like flying like real pilots. It's really cool technology, and it's just going to keep getting pushed further and further. It's it's
all right, Ivan.
I'm sorry.
I said, all right, Ivan. We got something serious to talk about here. You ready?
What did I do? Sure.
You made an app.
I did. I made an app.
Really?
A lot. I could have built a really, really nice jet or a couple really nice
I know.
jets.
That's why I want to bring it up.
Good Lord. So
for those of you guys that don't know, I don't know if I can bring it up on my computer. Maybe you can. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. RC event.
Oh, that's you?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's awesome.
Is Ivan. So I want you to explain it more, but a couple of things that really stand out to me about our discussions about RC Event Hub, and I know the things you have planned for it, is the sort of the giveaway thing, but also it not being just about airplanes it's about the entire RC hobby. I know you have a couple car guys on there as well too, promoting events, but also, I don't know how to say this properly, but predetermining whether somebody is a scammer or not, and like having a buy sell section type thing. That's
Okay.
another thing I'd
Sure.
like you to touch on as well too. But anyways, tell us about the app and how it came about and whatever you want to share about it.
So like I said, I've been involved in RC for a long time. Right now, I've primarily been on the airplane side of it. I have had cars, and I have race cars, and I have scratch built boats, and I have not formally raced boats, but messed around with literally every section of the hobby at some point. And just like you guys, right? Mm-hmm. So Jonathan, you're primarily turbines, but I've seen you build Strega, and I've seen you're obviously messing with FPV, and Right now, I'm heavy into the jets, but I love warbirds. And if you were to look across my shop, you'd see Mustangs and Spitfires and Warhawks. And I can't even tell you the number of Mustangs that are sitting in boxes waiting to be built. But, and I grew up flying sailplanes, thermal duration, and I've flown some IMAC, and there's a couple IMAC planes hanging in here. The reality is that my interest is not just jets. I like RC. Whether it be a car or whether it be a boat or whether it be whatever. And for the longest time, I'm older than both of you guys. For the longest time, all you had was as far as what you had, your reading materials were RCM, which was Advertisement Central, right? The Tower Hobbies catalog, which I still got 2 of those around here with dog-eared pages. The what, and of course model airplane news, yada yada, but model aviation, right? The AMA's publication, and your only source of information was the calendar of events in the background. Well, fast forward a number of years, for all of the negatives of social media, some of the positives are is it allows people with similar interests from different cities, states, countries to get together and talk about their hobby, et cetera, et cetera. And the reality is that every little niche has its own place. It's so segmented. The information is so segmented at this point, right? So, you could get a pretty decent jet listing off of the old RC Universe, calendar of events. Well, then also RC Universe changed, sold. It ended up, with a different format. There's a mass exodus. Most people are on RC groups now. I guess it's kind of the leader, but there's not really an organized event calendar there. A lot of people move to Facebook. Some clubs have got their events on Facebook, or there's a Facebook page that says, hey, here's oval track racing for Eastern Iowa, right? Or here's, jet flying or whatever. But the reality is if you have multiple interests, you've got to go to multiple places to get your information, and none of it's complete. It's kind of like TV, right? 45 years ago, you had 3 stations, ABC, NBC, CBS. Yeah, you had public broadcast or whatever, but for the most part, you had 3 places. A business or, somebody only had to look in one place to get at least 1/3 of the audience. Well, now you're all over the place. It's so segmented. Yeah. So my thought was, and I've had this thought for a long time, why not build an app that had it all available? Well, the early ideas that I had, and my partner and I have another app, community-based, and we actually have franchise opportunities for it throughout the United States to build a community-based app, et cetera, as a business opportunity. So I had some experience with apps, and I said, one of the things is if we could bring everything together, all of that data into one database and present it in an app. Well, the hardest part of that was it was going to be so labor intensive. Mm-hmm. You would have to have somebody who knew to go look at this website, even before the Facebook pages got prevalent. But if you look at this website, you have to go look at this Facebook page, you have to go to this website or this forum or this chat room or whatever it was and compile all of this information. Well, lo and behold, AI starts to come around. And I was able to start taking AI, machine learning, and say, this is what it is that we're looking for. This is what an event looks like, whether it be an event flyer for an event, whether it be a discussion on a website or a Facebook page. This is what an event looks like. So what can we do? Now I can use AI and these crawlers to go out and identify what is an event, regardless of discipline, right? warbirds, float flies, swap meets, etc. Bring it all together. Now I don't have to do the heavy lifting. I don't have to have a staff of 20 who's constantly just out there looking at forums. I can let AI do all the heavy lifting. Not only can it identify the events, but now it can populate a database with the right information in the right spots. And we had to teach it. We had to test it. I mean, we've been doing this for over a year now for an app that's only been out, honestly, a month and a half, 2 months at this point, 2.5 months, I guess. And so to test it and to get it all to work and bring it all together. There are some apps out there that rely heavily on user content. You know, most of them are going to be really niche as far as RC crawling, you know, the rock crawling, or maybe you've got the oval track guys. They tend to stay pretty tight with each other. Helicopter guys are extremely tight group, right? So, you know, some of those places have got the information and there's, you know, they're a little more concentrated, but for the most part, there's just so much out there. There's drone racing, there's drone soccer, there's, you know, everything in between. And so to be able to bring all of that together in one app, that was the original vision, right? Yeah. That's the primary value statement from a business standpoint. That's the primary value statement of the app is, you know, one stop. I'm going to let my AI do all the work. You can input events that maybe are a little obscure or not well represented that AI hasn't found. So anybody who's a subscriber can recommend an event. It comes to an approval process. It's usually up and running live in less than 3 or 4 hours. But to have that information and then take it a step further, I can save it to my favorite events. In which case, it puts it on an in-app calendar where I can see I like this event and this event and this event. But then when I open up the calendar, I see there's 3 events in 1 month. There's no way my wife is going to let me go to 3 events, but at least now I know which 3 that I have to choose from, and then I can sync those events with my own personal calendar, and then you know using you know the geolocation APIs and Google Maps and stuff like this, using all these APIs to say this is where your phone is and this is where the event is, and then we're going to turn around and give you roughly the distance, you know, as the crow flies from you where you're standing right now, where your phone is to this event. Now, if that is an event that you're interested in, then you can click by turn directions and it will actually give you driven distance. So like if you're in the app, you know, we use the Habersign formula to determine the distance between 2 points on a sphere. So it says, okay, here's the lat and long of your phone, here's the lat and long of the event. As the crow flies, that might be 147 miles. But then when you click on it for turn-by-turn directions based on the fact that you have to go around this lake or whatever it happens to be, it's actually, you know, 180-something miles. But it gives you turn-by-turn directions at that point.
So 2 questions. Is this on Android? Or is
Android
it just
and Apple? No,
okay.
both platforms. You can get it on the Play Store and the App Store. The initial download is free, which gives you access to a dozen featured events to kind of see, and I keep a good mix of featured events on there. There's some car stuff, some boat stuff, some airplane stuff, some heli stuff, a swap meet or whatever. Usually the bigger, go ahead.
By state or?
So your initial sort is going to be by date, whatever is happening soonest.
Okay,
but
and then it'll give you that throughout the country.
Absolutely. And then you can, if you want, based on those results, you can toggle and search by distance, which now it's going to show you what's closest to you first.
Right.
Now, so you can then search subcategories, right? You can search, I only want jet events, or I want to look at jets and warbirds, or I just want to look at all cars. I don't want to see anything airplane. Those search results, again, you can sort by date or distance. So you can determine either what's happening tomorrow or what's happening down the street, right?
I think it's awesome. So last year, I was getting more into car stuff and I was looking for car events, and I'm like scraping and scrubbing the web and trying to find like Facebook groups for races, and it wasn't that easy to like find like car events or races. And I was like, there's got to be more than this out there. Like, you know.
So right now, since its inception, so from a testing standpoint, I was live testing back in early June. And it wasn't available to the public. We hadn't got it approved through Apple and Google yet. But we were testing in-house back in June, and we were actually running AI searches and populating the app. Since June, of this year, so 6 months roughly, we've already run over 1,000 events. We've already identified and run over 1,000 events through the app, 1,000 different events.
Wow.
Cars, boats, planes, trains, automobiles, whatever, right? And so right now, currently, there's just shy of 300 events. It's actually come up because as we approach the end of the year, there wasn't a lot of 2025 inventory left, right?
Right.
And people hadn't set their 2026 calendar. So it was really hard the last month and a half to sit there and be like, man, I am searching like crazy and just not coming up with an awful lot of stuff.
And it's doing everything. It's doing swap meets. It's doing.
I uploaded 57 new swap meets just yesterday.
Wow.
Because it's that time of year, you know.
Right.
People aren't flying. They're snowed in. It's negative 18 in the Arctic tundra. Sorry, that's where you're at. Just have to say it. But, you know, so what happens is in, you know, those are people move indoors and that's when they get their building activities done, or that's when they do their swap meets or whatever.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, it's, I'm starting to run into, you know, time constraints. Not that this is a bad thing necessarily because it's growing quickly, but I'm starting to run into time constraints with, you know, my other two professional obligations. And then I've got this one coming off the ground and yada, yada, yada. And so I spend every night, you know, working with the AI. Sometimes it's finding duplicate events. I have to obviously purge those. And some nights, you know, you just don't feel like doing it or whatever. I do a really good job of keeping the air events. Obviously, it's my primary place of interest, and so it's really easy to populate that. Car events are not too difficult, although very segmented based on what type, right? Is it somebody who's interested in drifting? Is it crawling? Is it on road, off road?
And that's what I went through searching for car events. It's like,
oh my gosh,
you punch in, you know, RC car racing, you know, Northeast. You're going to get like all of the events, but like you said, it's very segmented, right? So now it's like, all right, are we doing short track, NASCAR, Losi? Is it?
Exactly.
It's just, there's so many crawling, there's so many different genres.
And where do you break it down? So like right now, my categories are obviously like on-road, off-road, oval racing, drifting, crawling, right?
Those are the big ones. I think that.
Sure, but within off-road, there's obviously you've got carpet off-road, you've got outdoor off-road, you know, you've got some are buggy, some are truggy, some are, you know, whatever. Then you've got your oval. Is it carpet oval? Is it dirt oval? You know, and now you've got Kyosho with these little mini, you know, these little mini T's or whatever. That's
the mini Z's. It's taking off. It's becoming a big
mini Z's. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the mini Z's are becoming. It's like tabletop. You don't need a huge amount of space to do it. So even like the smaller hobby shops are able to have a little track set up that they can set up on a couple of nights.
I'm sponsoring an event in Dallas Fort Worth in January that's a mini Z race.
There's tracks that it's actually a pretty cool setup, but they have them on like cables and they like lower them down from the ceiling. And when the race is over, they crank them back up and they go back away. And it's like brilliant, right? Because you're not taking up all that floor space. And when you're done doing the race for the night or whatever, it just gets out of everybody's hair and goes away. So yeah, that's becoming the mini Z's are actually becoming very popular.
I think it's a space issue. You know, like you said, it's so easy. They're a relatively low price point. There's not a lot of modifications. I mean, you get some guys go out and buy a $500-600 chassis, and then they got another $500-600 worth of stuff in it. Oh, yeah. Whereas a mini Z, yeah, you're gonna pay a couple $100 for it, but you can spend another couple $100 on it if you try.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. So, the big thing with the tracks and the RC stuff is it's lost retail space for a lot of shops, right? So for them to have an RC shop stocked and then a track in the next room, and those tracks are pretty big, it's like that's all space that they're not selling inventory.
That square footage costs the same in rent, no matter what you're doing.
Exactly. They got to find out. So it's hard for hobby shops to have a track, and there's a bunch of successful shops that do it. I think this is a great idea, dude. I think this is awesome. Now,
well, I appreciate it. You were saying hard. Go ahead.
It might be. Right now it's free. You're saying initial download's free?
The initial download's free. And that'll give you access to the featured page, the featured events, which is, like I said, it's a little, I try to keep it a good variety of what's in there. It will indicate to you the information that is available. With the initial download, you don't get turn-by-turn directions. You can't find and book a local hotel room. You can't save it and sync it with your Google Calendar or your Apple Calendar. So, and you can't add your own events. You're very restricted. It's basically just It's basically just this is what the app can do, but any link that you're trying to do some second level activity, premium level activity, it's gonna set you up for a subscription. And the subscription, man, I've got a video out there. I kind of made an AI mascot called Gear. He's like a coyote with a yellow jacket and stuff, and he's kind of funny. He's done some fun stuff, but there's a video out there. It's like, this is literally less than a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
If you do monthly, it's $3.99 a month. And I actually know jet pilots that I see at events and have come to my event and been like, yeah, I'm just not spending money on that. And I'm
So
like,
have you thought about foregoing the subscription and going to advertising?
So here's the problem. And trust me, been in advertising my whole life. So advertising, especially online advertising right now, is changing dramatically. It used to be that it was just you pay for your space in banner advertising, right? Now, most people are wanting to move to affiliate links, affiliate marketing. And the difference is that with the banner advertising, you're paying for constant branding, right? That repetition. Every time I log into RC groups, I see whatever it is, right? That banner across the top. And there's a branding, there's a value to that branding. I deal with this in one of my other apps all the time. There is a value to that, to just that constant subconscious reinforcement. Well, what a lot of people are doing now, though, a lot of vendors, whether they be retailers or distributors or whatever, they're going to affiliate marketing where, they've got to click on that ad. It's going to plant a cookie. And then if they come back and spend something in the next 14 days, then we'll pay you a percentage of that. Right. And that works great for like in the app, right? If you go in and you see an event and you look turn by turn directions, and then you say, book a hotel room nearby. Well, that's just an Expedia affiliate link. I'm going to send you to Expedia. Hopefully you book a hotel room, and then, they're going to kick me back $3 or whatever that happens to be. Right. So there's a huge change there. And in order to get banner type money, I know guys that are paying $500 a month to be on RC groups as a banner in a particular category. Yeah. But, RC groups has got, whatever, 37,000, unique people in the course of a month that are, going on there. Now, not all of them are going to be jet guys. Not all of them are going to be, whatever, but it's kind of like the billboard on the side of the road. Oh, there's 60,000 vehicles a day past this billboard. Never mind that none of them are stopping and they're on their way to the West Coast. That's just the traffic count, right?
Right.
So there's a big change there. The second part of it is that, without going into too many details, there was a significant amount of money spent on this.
Yeah,
like
sure.
I said, I could have built myself a really nice scale jet, or two, depending on the size and the level you want to complete. But I thought, this is better for the RC industry as a whole. I see a lot of people, and it's not just, we talk about it in the terms of, if you want to go to a jet event, this is a great way to go find what the list of jet events are, or cars, or whatever. That's the higher level guys, right? That's the guy that's spending, he's got a $12,000 sport jet, right? And he's probably got 2 or 3 of them. And he's got whatever this is or whatever that is, and he's going to an event. Well, for that guy, $3.99 a month or $34.99 for the year, right? Which ends up being like $2.91 a month. That's nothing, right? They sign up. It's cool to be supportive. It's whatever. But one of the things too, though, is that, and this is what I see overall in the hobby, there's a giant lack of, it used to be that everything pushed to the clubs. And now you can go buy a cheapo $200 whatever from Amazon, and you can go out and wreck it, and you can maybe buy a replacement wing for it. You can wreck it again. Your 3 crashes in, and you're done. You throw it away, and that person never looks at RC again. Right. Meanwhile, they see on YouTube, they see people out there flying, 4-point rolls 6 feet off the runway with a turbine jet, and they go, I want to be that guy, and I want to fly that cool airplane. But they're not, there's no way, there's no path, there's no clear-cut path anymore from your $200 foamy to whatever it is that you want to accomplish. And so you look at, some of these groups online, that such and such for beginners, or, the just whatever the information is. And you see these people repeatedly crash, or they're having problems. And it's not just airplanes. I mean, it's in cars, it's in all the stuff, the questions, what are the good things what's a good one for my 14-year-old grandson or whatever. And the reality is that so many problems, the hobby could benefit so much if people weren't what's the word I'm looking for? If people weren't so belligerently independent that I don't need help, I don't want to talk to anybody, I just want to, the instant gratification. I want to buy an airplane, fly.
Impatience. Yeah, yes. I think it's impatience. I think it's instant gratification is a good word.
So the app is out there and available for anybody who wants to find a place where, hey, hey son, we've been talking about RC whatever. There's an event down the road for this or whatever. Right. So that's the primary, like I said, that's the primary value statement. Find any event, anywhere, anytime, close to you, or you're happening soon, or your area of interest, or whatever. The second piece of it, and Jonathan mentioned this earlier, is, for some people that's not enough. That's not enough for $3 a month. Well, it takes an investment. Play chess, not checkers. But every month we're giving away RC gear. Now obviously the more subscribers I get, the more I can afford better RC gear, right? But like last month we gave away, it was the first month, I think I had maybe 20 or 25 subscribers. So it wasn't a very big pool of people. But because we'd only been, going a month and 45 days or something at that point. And we gave away a really nice radio control stand to put like your 1/10 scale cars on. It would hold like 3 cars on a desktop, right? Kind of at a 45, stack them up. Something that I would like to have. I got enough cars around here. I could benefit from something like that. So I thought, that's a good first event or whatever. The guy that won it, extremely appreciative. He was not an RC car guy. He's actually a Warbird guy. But he's like, I do have a couple cars laying around. This will be a good way to display them. So, again, to my point, people like RC. If you like RC, it doesn't matter what it is. But every month to be able to do something. This month, we're giving away a brand new in the box. In fact, it's on the shelf. A brand new in the box Tamiya TT02, kind of like a rally on-road car.
Yep, I have a bunch of them.
Yeah. So, respectfully, it's 100 and it's 150-ish, 140-ish dollar.
It's a great little chassis.
Yeah, but they're a very popular chassis. People race them in classes. People turn them into rally cars or on road or drifters or whatever. So they're pretty versatile. Thought it was a good one to give away. So that'll be given away in 3 days, and everybody who's a subscriber gets an opportunity to win. Automatically, they're entered. If they use the app to refer in other users and they, use their referral code, there's an extra entry in them for every one of those. If you refer in an event that we use, gets approved and gets online, there's another entry for that.
Speaking of referral codes, let me just hop in for a sec.
I thought about throwing that in there for you, sir.
If you guys are signing up for the app, use my referral code, which is TLS of RC. The lighter side of RC. So TLSOFRC.
And then John gets a coupon for a TT01 every time you use his referral code.
Yes. Or a stand for all of his RC cars or whatever. But here's the deal. We're cruising along. We're getting subscriptions every day. I'm trying to, there's not a lot of followers on the page. So, what I get organically from that is pretty slim. I do some boosting. I do some ad posting and stuff. At this point, I've got 2 drivers, one out of Georgia and one out of Iowa that are oval track racers. Those oval track guys are extremely loyal and extremely outspoken is not the word, enthusiastic about their type of racing. And so, for them to get that kind of stuff out there, that'll help me with the RC ground game a little bit. But as we get more merchants, as we get more users, it allows me to approach merchants and, solicit, I don't have a problem paying retail for it, but if somebody's, hey, I can now give away a better RC car, a better chassis. Mm-hmm. I can give away a Goblin helicopter or a Tron helicopter or something from from one of the other manufacturers. So the point being is that, as we get more subscribers, the value of those mm-hmm. gifts those giveaways will go up. It doesn't bother me at all to give away like I said, a nice helicopter chassis or an on-road or off-road chassis or an expensive sailplane or a jet chassis, jet airframe or a warbird or whatever. I mean, because where else, you see stuff like this on Facebook all the time. You see these waffles and stuff like this and
waffles,
waffles. And so none of them, you can't buy any of those tickets for $3. So this is $3 a month, and every month you're entered in a drawing. So that's all the app as it exists right now. Now, this is the part that to me is going to be the real game changer, and that is a real problem in our industry right now. RC in general is the buy sell game of used equipment has turned into an absolute wild west of fraud and scammers and cheats and what have you. So that being said, you've got people going, I'd like to have your kit, but I need you to hold up a sign with today's date and 3 fingers.
It's true. I see it on
not
Facebook.
dealing with that. I don't run into too many problems. I've got a really nice 100% pretty deep trader rating on RC groups. I'm 100% back. Not that I even log in there anymore, but it used to be all on RC Universe, and then before that it was all on eBay. So and they're all the same username. So if somebody questions me, I go, look, here's the same username in all 3 of these platforms, and it's all 100%. So I personally don't run into a lot of problems selling, but I also understand the concerns buying, and I take steps. And I had a guy get over on me once against my better judgment, sent it friends and family, bought it, hook, line, and sinker. It was about $300. To PayPal said too bad, so sad, but my bank said otherwise. So sorry, PayPal. Which now they won't let me link my bank account to the PayPal particular PayPal account. So now I have to do everything off of a debit card on that one. But but in the long run, it worked out, I guess. That being said, what we're working on and we actually haven't developed is a classified section. Now, you obviously have to be in the app and be a subscriber. So that's the first hurdle. A lot of scammers, they don't want to invest $3 a month just to be on a platform where they might be able to scam somebody. Right? So that'll be the first hurdle. But the second hurdle, and I guess you hear it here first or whatever, but I'm already in development, so I'm a step ahead of everybody. But the next hurdle is that I'm going to use a third-party API for identity verification. Yeah. You can be on the app at $3 a month or $34.99 for the year, and that's fine. But you still won't be able to get to the classified section, the buy-sell section. In order to get into the buy-sell section, you will have to submit to, there's no extra cost to it. I'm not going to charge a premium for it, but you will have to submit to a third-party identification protocol, similar to, maybe not as robust as the IRS, but I need to make it pretty robust. I need to make sure that, at that point, I'm looking at what an actual, based on what those protocols look like, what insurance would look like on my end to protect against, that kind of stuff. But ultimately the game plan is to have a classified section available for subscribers that in order to view the classifieds, in order to buy or sell, you have to go through this ID verification protocol. And that once you do, it grants you access to that. And you will know that everybody in there has been vetted by me, right? By my company. And if you were to come across a situation where Jonathan lists something, uses pictures from a Facebook post 3 years ago, it doesn't exist, he doesn't own it, he's never owned it, but yet you're crazy enough to send him $1,400, friends and family across the internet, right? There's a lot of stuff that goes wrong with that. That's not my fault. But if you were to do that, then the reality is that if you've exhausted your PayPal recourses, you've exhausted your bank resources, because it happened on my platform and I am confident that I have verified Jonathan's identity, I will insure your $1,400 purchase price.
Wow.
Just give you your money back because it happened on my platform.
That is huge.
which I think I think that's a true game changer in that situation. Now I'm hoping to have that out probably mid to late Q1 of 26. I say that, golly, early Q1 is just 3 weeks away.
Right around the corner. Yeah,
it's crashing in on me hard, and there's just so much going on. But now here's the deal: if Jonathan lists it and says, "Hey, this is new in the box, never seen fuel, never been mounted," and you get it, and it's obviously been mounted, and it's got dirt and dust on it, well, that's not fraud. It was deceitful, and there'll be a feedback or ranking system, some sort of seller ranking system to address those issues. But it wasn't completely fraudulent, like he's non-existent.
Misrepresentation.
Absolutely. So there'll still be some of the traditional things there, but I think that will be huge. And again, all of that for literally less than 1 cup of coffee a month.
Yeah, I shared.
If somebody can't see the value in that, then I'm not really sure I want them as a customer.
when you did that first post on Facebook, I think it was about a week or two ago, I shared it to the lighter side or my personal channel or whatever it is. And I can't remember who it was, but it was a guy down in Phoenix. I've been to events with him before, and he made some sort of poo-poo comment, like another app for another charge a month. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I don't get it. So
sure.
That's okay. Like you said, if he doesn't see the value, it's okay.
Yeah, tell you what, brother, keep on. Buy something off Facebook. It'll get you eventually.
Exactly.
So I don't know. Some people are just perpetually unhappy. This is a hobby. It's a lot of fun, and I enjoy pretty much every aspect of it. I build, I assemble, I fly. Depends on the time of the year, the time of the day, or whatever, which one I prefer to do more. Anything, if I can make the industry a little bit better, that's great. But I understand, some people are just miserable. There's nothing I can do about that. But I think it's a really cool app. I think there's a place for it. I did some advertising on TikTok, and boosted that out there. I had a little AI video. Everybody does AI and everybody complains about AI, but I did a little AI video where there's a guy and a son at a city park, and there's a sign there that says city ordinance, no RC vehicles. And the kid's holding a car. It's like a stadium truck or something. And he's like, "Dad, is there someplace we can go and race?" And the dad's like, "Son, I wouldn't even know where to look for something like that. Maybe there's an app for that or something like that." Anyway, he goes on his phone. Well, that went out there and it got a lot of really good reviews. Yeah. Except for California. And a bunch of those guys were like, "Well, out here we use this and da 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 da." And I was like, "Look, I don't know what to tell you. Your app that you're talking about is car. Mine is
losing you again, buddy. Hold on. You're coming back.
Closer. See if that helps. But yeah, so that's the nature of it. I mean, it's RC Event Hub. There's a Facebook page, there's a YouTube channel, there's a website. All of it is just RC Event Hub. And then if it's available on the App Store and the Play Store, Jonathan, you've got that code. I would love to see that blow up for you, so that statistically you were winning literally everything. Wouldn't bother me at all.
That'll just help fuel the fire.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's it's really interesting. There was a period of time when I was like, man, I sure would like to know how to make a living with RC. And, it's kind of, I'm not going to say it looks like it could come to fruition. Yeah. I'm not looking to get rich off of it, but and I'm not looking to walk away from, the other sources of income that I have. But if this did well enough that it was, it's not far, believe it or not, it's not far from being self.
We're losing you again, dude. I'm sorry. It must be your time.
No, you're okay.
Over there. We have to start wrapping up soon, anyways, because I have to go and get one of my children's. One of my offsprings, the chosen ones.
Awesome.
Ivan, it's been great having you on. I would like to have you on again. Let's say we'll call it possibly summer, because I'd like to hear an
Yeah.
update about how the app is going and how,
Sure.
because I think that's
And a
I
big
think
rollout
that's-
for turbines and
Yeah.
tumbleweeds.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe like July-ish would probably be around the perfect time. Give you a little,
Sure.
Yeah.
time for turbines and tumbleweeds. You also get a follow-up. I think the app's a great idea. You're gonna listen. Haters are gonna hate. You're gonna get.
Yeah.
You're gonna get that anyways.
Yeah.
It always amazes me. Like, I posted something to Marketplace the other day, and like, I had one or two people like comment and like go out of their way and negatively comment. It's like, it just drives me crazy. It's like, do something with your life. Like, just
I see
go.
the stuff on Jonathan's channel where, first of all, you get an AI summary, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, look how he expertly does this or that or whatever. That's AI's take, which I think is hilarious. But you recognize it as AI. But the number of people who think that you wrote that yourself and then comment about it, or like the one that really drove me nuts, and I have to be careful because as business owner, as trying to create this or that or whatever, you really don't want to put yourself on one side of a fence or the other.
Agreed.
But you had a comment. You were drilling a Kevlar tank for a screw-in fitting or whatever, and somebody was like talking about, my God, get the right equipment, use a drill press. Look at you wallow that out. What an amateur, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, you obviously have no idea who you're commenting about.
Yeah.
I mean, your build videos and the way that you do things, and your discipline in cycling servos and how you do this and how you test that. I mean, if you do, I've never seen it or heard about it, but I can't imagine that you've ever had a failed maiden as meticulous as you are. Right now, somebody might have put something in the dirt later on, but as far as like, because of your build, I just don't see that happening. And I'm just looking, and then you look at the guy's profile.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, stick with your Tamiya Grasshopper circa 1984 in your trailer house. Okay.
Yeah.
That was awful. You might want to.
I remember that post specifically. That was funny.
That is funny.
Yeah. But anyway, it's like, come on, man. It's like, but it is. You can't get away from it, and everybody.
I think it's a great idea. I definitely think there's a need or space for an app like that, because, like you said, there one source for all of that information is great compared to the way it is now, because you got to manually like look and search, and I definitely see a need for it. Thanks for coming on.
Well, there's no room for comments. There's no room for comments. There's no room for discussion. I mean, I've thought about maybe adding that later, but the reality is like, there's an event this weekend. Maybe I'll stop by and go see it.
Absolutely, and that's all it needs to be.
Whatever.
That's it. Just for people to find the events in one location and not have to scrub and search the web, go crazy looking for events, because I've done that. Sure. I've done that multiple times. So,
well, that's my biggest challenge, is to keep the inventory. I honestly believe if I can keep the inventory high, the accuracy and the quality of the inventory, then the app stands on its own merits, and everything else is just extra.
Awesome. Thank you, Ivan, for coming on.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yep. It's been a pleasure, Ivan. Thank you.
Oh, thank you guys. Jonathan, again, I really appreciate it. Love the opportunity.
I'll message you offline, all right, Ivan?
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you, gentlemen.
Awesome.
See you guys.
Take care.